Open Season! Not many people know this, but this is actually the result of a series of comic strips that really went a long way. It originally began as a bunch of hunting-related segments from the comic In the Bleachers by cartoonist Steve Moore, which gave him and John Carls the idea to turn it into an entire hunting-themed animated feature, hopefully to make something reminiscent to the classic Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd cartoons. One pitch later, and it was all set to eventually gain an entire legacy, where Open Season would later have 3 direct-to-DVD sequels. And by the way, yes, there are several Open Season sequels. I honestly am surprised and confused as you are. Oh no, wait! People are gonna endlessly request me to review those, aren't they? So now that the hunt is on for this movie, will the animals conquer the film like how they conquer the woods? Or will I want to review this by standing on a bear rug with a deer trophy next to me? Let's find out. The story. During the mid-2000s, there was a large group of computer-animated films that would star a cast of talking animals. Seriously, it was strangely a big thing at the time. So when something like Open Season would come along, it would seem like a movie that could have potential similar to DreamWorks' Madagascar. Maybe it could be like a Madagascar in the woods, if you will. However, to my surprise, that analogy would actually be correct, but not in a good way. I know that the similarities would most likely be coincidental, but the comparisons between the two feel unavoidable at this point. Think about it. This is a movie where the main character is a domestic animal that's usually viewed as dangerous and being on top of the food chain, but he performs shows to people instead. However, after one wild night around town with a troublemaking animal, he's sent to the wild where he's trying to find a way back home while simultaneously trying to survive and live like how his species normally would. Where the comparisons would end, though, would be the execution, as Madagascar would deliver it with strong characters and memorable jokes, while Open Season does not. This is where the latter falls flat the most. The film is poorly executed. Honestly, the concept of the movie does have a lot of strong potential, where woodland creatures would fight back on the hunters during hunting season. If anything, Looney Tunes already proved that this can work extremely well. But this? It just feels absolutely messy. It's character-driven, yet the cast isn't really likable and they feel more bizarre than relatable, and the film lacks any form of subtlety. It doesn't go and play around with interesting ideas, it'll just poop out abruptly whenever it feels the urge to do it. And it even took that literally at one point.
Well, what do you do?
You know, I can't remember.
As for the humor, it's an entire mixed bag. There's a lot that feel more awkward and sometimes more cringy than funny, but I'll give it that there are a few decent ones that can happen now and then. The story does hold the right materials to make something great, but it feels absolutely clueless when it comes to making something out of them. The animation. Keep in mind that this was made when the concept of computer animation is still relatively fresh and more companies are jumping in the bandwagon in the hopes that they can profit out of that animation money. With that said, it looks exactly like what it is, a company's first shot at a computer animated feature. Of course, they're not going to completely nail it on their first try, and it looks a lot less polished compared to the other studios that have been in the game for years at that point, like Pixar and DreamWorks. It is noticeable how the animators are only doing what they can with the character animation that leans a little more on the cartoony edge by emphasizing squash and stretch, and some textures do look nice like the animal's fur, but it's evident that the company at the time didn't have the strongest rendering system, so it does come off looking a little dated. However, that's just what the movie itself presents. When looking into what was done on paper, there are some ideas that do look nice and are prominently shown in the film, and others give the movie a bit of an unappealing look. With the backgrounds, they succeed in giving the feature that feel of the forest with nice use of colors and the way that the environment looks more painterly-like than trying to be realistic. Instead of testing to capture realism in the woods, it rather wants to pay homage to the classic Bugs Bunny and Yogi Bear cartoons to emphasize how this is an animated forest.
Okay, Forest 101. These big wood stick things are called trees.
The big rocks are called mountains, and the little rocks are their babies.
On the other hand, though, while I get that the character design is trying to be more experimental, it ends up giving them an uncomfortable appearance. For the most part, they look lanky and unnatural that it ends up making them look more distorted than something that can be charmingly cartoony. It's far from the strongest looking film, even for 2006, but at least there are a few notable marks on the animation. The characters. As a buddy film, the characters are in control of the movie. But with the way they are presented, they end up making this go out of control. Let's start off with our main bear, Boog, a domestic grizzly bear who finds himself in the wilderness thanks to the shenanigans of Elliot, and has to find a way to get back home. While his character arc does make the film feel predictable, what's weird about him is his performance by Martin Lawrence. Like, why is Boog so urban? It feels completely out of place when you have this movie set in the woods and the lead is just walking around going, "Yo, baby, I'm a grizzly bear. I don't belong here. I gotta find my way back home, man." Then again, considering some of the other animals here, I wouldn't be surprised if this is the kind of film that thinks exaggerated accents are funny.
Oi! Try it again, I'll be kicking your furry brown bahookie.
What? Hey, this is a different tree.
They're all my trees. I suggest you turn around and head right back from whence you came.
That's what I'm trying to do. So just point me the way to town, and I'll be out of here.
Then we have our other star, Elliot, the deer that is meant to be the goofball as Boog would be the straight man. When thinking about it, he really is just a walking problem. In fact, Boog said it best himself.
If it weren't for you, I'd be home right now. None of this would have ever happened. You said you knew the way back, but you lied.
Exactly! He's the one who caused all this mess, and everybody's lives would have been better if they both haven't met. And yet, this movie is trying to pass him off like he's a likable character we should support. Why? Because Ashton Kutcher is trying way too hard to be funny? No, screw it. He's a danger to the forest. And then there's the villain Shaw, the mad hunter that really wants our leads dead. However, his motive to why he hunts makes him look a little, nuts, if you will. Where he does so to make sure that animals don't suddenly revolt against humanity and end up taking over the world where humans are the subspecies, Planet of the Apes style. Yeah, he's, crazy. As for the other characters, they either are one-dimensional people like Beth playing as Boog's mother figure and Gordy as Beth's mentor, or they only exist for the purpose of a joke like some of the animals. I have no idea what these characters are trying to be, but one thing I do know that they're not is being good. This movie is weird, and I don't mean the good weird. I mean the kind where you just sit there after the film is over thinking, what did I just watch? Open Season had the right tools to create an enjoyable animated feature with a great concept and some elements of the animation looking nice, but it ended up becoming this confusing and strange mess with a badly executed story, unappealing looking characters, a cast of either dumb or insane people and animals, and jokes that can either hit or embarrassingly miss. My best recommendation is to just stick with Madagascar, since that's basically a good version of Open Season. But if you think you can survive going through the forest and expect the unexpected from some weird animals, then I wish you the best of luck. I honestly tried coming in with an open mind and hoping for a fun comedy, but man, that was a mistake giving this any form of expectation beforehand. It almost got out of the woods, but it decided to turn the other way and decided to grab itself the AniMat's seal of garbage. Now, if you excuse me, I'm going back to civilization to get some sanity back. Hey guys, this is AniMat's. I just want to start things off by giving out a huge thanks to Ryan Walterson for his amazing support on Patreon, which allowed him to get some amazing rewards, including this review of Open Season, which is the first animated feature done by none other than Sony Pictures Animation. Yes, the same company that has produced movies such as Surf's Up, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and, well, you know what? That's pretty much it. I mean, like, if you want to talk positively and only focus on the good aspects of Sony Animation, then you might as well only focus on those films and just ignore the rest. Like, just sweep them under the rug. Pretend that they never existed. Okay, but anyways, in all seriousness, though, I find it quite fascinating when you do look into Sony Animation's first two movies, with Surf's Up and Open Season, because in a way, they really are polar opposites in what they have delivered. Where first you have Open Season, where it has a great concept, but poor execution. But then you also have Surf's Up, with poor concept, but great execution. Where, let's take a look at Open Season a little bit. Like I said in my review, it is a movie that really does have a great concept. It has a great idea, and it has a lot of potential to really come out with something that could be really enjoyable and something that's great. Maybe it is an idea that we have heard plenty of times before, and yes, it was an idea that's even used since like the classic golden age of cartoons, especially with Looney Tunes and stuff like that, but hey, it can actually work out in the right hands. Unfortunately, due to the bad execution, it didn't really come out as a good film, and it just turned out to be an absolute mess. Like, even though the movie would have promise in concept, it didn't come out well because of its execution. But then you take a look at Surf's Up. Now, this is a movie where if you try to explain the concept of that film to someone, they would actually be turned off. And yeah, like, thinking about it, the idea of it, it really is stupid. Like, this is a film about surfing penguins with a really unoriginal plot where the main character dreams to be a surfer and he gets mentorship from his idol and all that kind of stuff. You could pretty much easily fill in the rest from there. But because of the execution, it actually turned out to be really enjoyable. Like, it feels like it was well written for the concept that it has. The characters feel believable, and that's kind of the craziest thing about it. Surf's Up made a movie about surfing penguins feel real and believable. So it really does teach you how execution is everything. Where even if you have a great idea, that doesn't mean it'll come out as a great film. And even if you have like a terrible concept, like a terrible idea, if you can manage to take that and execute it well, then it could actually turn out to be something that's great. Something that can really surprise audiences. So that's honestly a really interesting analogy. And I will say one more thing about Open Season is that there was one thing that absolutely shocked me when I was watching the film, and that was actually at the credits when I saw that one of the directors is actually Roger Allers. Now, if you guys don't know, Roger Allers is actually one of the directors also for The Lion King, and he also later would go and direct Khalil Gibran's The Prophet, which is an independent animated feature. And, of course, one is actually really popular, really well known, and, like, of course, many people know it as a masterpiece. And the other is a small indie film, not many people know it, but my god, it was such a beautiful film. Like, it really did capture my heart. It's just absolutely beautiful. But, yeah, I mean, considering the works that Roger Allers has done, or at least directorial-wise, it is kind of surprising where somehow
now, like, open season would be crammed up there. It's like, okay, really nice masterpiece, really nice masterpiece, really good film, really good film. What the fridge is this? Okay, but anyways, with all that said and done, like I said, I need to get some sanity back, so hopefully we'll do that with the next review in the animation hat. And before I go, I just want to go and start things off by saying that if you guys would like to be like Ryan Walterson and you want to go and support my work and get some amazing rewards at the same time, including seeing my videos before anyone else, then all you have to do is just go to patreon.com/animat. But at the same time, if you guys would like to suggest an animated film you would like me to review and I would put onto the animation hat, then all you have to do is write me an email at animatsreviews@gmail.com. Okay, so, with all that said, okay, got it, never mind. So, the next review shall be... Oh, wow. Okay. This is going to be a really interesting one because now we are going to be going back to the classics. Now, this might not be a pretty popular name for animated films and stuff like that, but if you know your animation history, this really did make a huge, significant impact. The most that I could say about it is that if you guys have seen Animation Look Back, or if you guys are fans of Animation Look Back, then you might remember I have mentioned this film to be the inspiration for Isao Takahata to pursue a career in animation.
You know, I can't remember.